I'd like to introduce you to a good friend of mine, Olga Ramos. Olga was high-flying corporate executive in big CPG companies, competed with Freddie, etc., and then decided there was a higher calling. I think that comes from her family upbringing and both parents being teachers, but
yes.
really getting to the point of going, sometimes you have to do something more for your community. So she moved into working for Boys and Girls Club. She'd been supporting for many years and became the full-time leader of the Boys and Girls Club here in Puerto Rico. So thank you so much and coming.
Thank you for having me. It's great.
It's always a pleasure to sit with somebody and hear about what they do that makes a real difference to real people. We do a lot of talk and we're full of hype in our industry. We also sometimes can't believe everything we see on TV and everything that we get told on news. Sometimes you have to boil it down to the truth and the essence of what it is, and that's doing right by people. So please, with that, can you just sort of give a framing of what you do at the Boys and Girls Club in Puerto Rico to the audience here?
Yeah, I lead the Boys and Girls Club in Puerto Rico after being in the board of directors for 8 years, and we serve in Puerto Rico 15,000 kids and youth. We offer supplementary educational services, so we're an after-school organization. Also, we serve 4,000 parents and guardians, so we kind of fill the gap that the education system leaves in Puerto Rico. 9 out of 10 schools are failing schools, and that's based on the standards test. So before the storm, we already had a storm in the education sector, so with the storm, it gets more complicated.
Just say that again. 9 out of 10 schools on the island fail to meet the standard requirement. What does that do for our future generations, our consumers, the youth that become the sort of shaping of tomorrow's community? And that's before the storm hits and wipes out the education. There are some crazy stats we should share with this group because they're all really good at numbers. So we've got 82% of homes damaged.
Yeah.
43% even now daily food shortages, 43% of the population of the island. We've got a mental health impact of 44% of all the children on the island have got a registered mental health impact from the storm. And if we go to education, even of those schools that were functional, you got 92 days out and 78 days out, depending on the age. So up to half a year of education lost on a system where already 9 out of 10 schools failed to meet the standard. That's pretty cataclysmic, and we're talking about this is part of the United States of America. I'm sorry, I'm disgusted as an Englishman here, but please, talk about those stats and what that means for the island and what we do next.
Yeah, for us, all of those are really bad. The kids that we serve are kids that live under levels of poverty, so 90% of our kids are under 15,000 or less per year in a household. So when the storm came, they were failing schools, and now they miss half a year of school. So what we saw is that in Puerto Rico, we tend to be short-minded, so we forget really quick. And we would say that we reopen schools 6 months after, and that we pass our students.
Hang on, so we pass these students.
They pass grade.
When 9 out of 10 schools are already failing the grade.
And they miss 6 months.
And they've missed half a year. Mm-hmm. But let's pass them and move them on to the system.
We pass them, so the storm is over. We move to the next grade, and now we're seeing kids that pass with good grades because they just passed, and they're not qualifying for services because they were good students and they were really not, and so they're not getting the services either. So how do you insert those kids in the formal economy later on, 10 years from now?
Hang on, and 44% of them have got mental health issues from the trauma of living in a storm, losing their home, losing their possessions, losing the roof, not having hot water or power. But hey, let's pass them anyway and put them in the system.
Yeah, that says year passed, we're done.
Okay.
And now we're seeing that we have to reframe our services at the Boys and Girls Clubs. We have to even include yoga services, mindfulness. We have to influx of psychologists, so we can try to help the government doing a job that they should have done with the storm. Because at times you cannot wait for them to do something. It's our job to change that.
And I think this comes back to the point of resilience and an island nation, of sort of taking responsibility yourselves. The NGOs, there are many, many private groups who are trying to do things to take a responsibility, fill a void. You're one of them. There's PESEs, there's Crown Outreach, there's a number of these organizations. The church here on the island is massively significant. So is there a sort of collection of the NGOs, or do you just do it spontaneously and independently?
There's a collection. I think that with the storm, we all came together to see where the gaps were in the community, so we were not duplicating efforts. So we were working together. Today, we still work together to see where the voids are, so we can, because each of us has specialized services. So we're trying to still cover the opportunities as a whole.
But how do you get funded? I'm sorry, I'm going to get to money because we got lots of very influential and powerful people here. How do you get funded?
Most of NGOs get money from government. So right now, our normal ratio is 80% government with the diversification between the funds and 20% private. With the storm and with the money that we were able to get mainly through the diaspora, we were able to close the year 50-50. So that's not normal. We're going to get back in the next 2 years to the 80-20 ratio. But for example, right now, with the storm, all of the processes in the government are delayed with the new RFPs and providing funding for the services to be continued. So we are in a place that, for example, next Friday, I'm gonna get stop of the funds with the housing department, and we have 7 residential areas that we serve. So in the process, we just submitted a new RFP yesterday, but until February or March, we will have no funds to run. If I fund the organization to keep providing services to the residential areas, we're going to need all of our reserves that we need to provide the service later on. So we're talking about right now, there's a gap of $500,000 for me to keep it open. If anybody has $500,000 spare, we can talk at the end. But
Lend it for about 6 months till the government financing catches up.
So that's housing, education is the same, and they would just explain it's a matter of a process. But for us, it's services.
So just remind us, how many people are you looking after? How many children? How many parents?
15,000 and 4,000 guardians. 15,000 and 4. So it's 20,000 people.
15,000 kids. Excuse me, a round of applause for 15,000 kids. 15,000 kids. When we were here in the spring, we were still going to communities where the schools were closed. There were tarpaulins at best on roofs. There was black mold. We were going in with power washers and trying to clean out the places and get rid of the black mold and put some sort of clean mattresses down as beds. That's still the reality. Those of you, how many of you have been here before? Hands up those of you been on the island. Okay, those of you, it's your first time. The view from the airport to here looks very different from when you head out to the campus and the hills and you explore the rest of the island. To give you an idea, just Black Friday last year, so that was, what, 5 weeks after the storm? Costco, and we mentioned, Freddie, you mentioned Costco, the best logistics company in the world. Frankly, there weren't things anywhere, but Costco had their supply chain in before anybody else. Incredible. But, Carlos, we were loading up the back of your car with milk because Fajardo and the far east of the island, they hadn't had milk for 6 weeks. Nobody'd seen milk. Your car was like down on the back axle. Meanwhile, there were people there buying flat-screen TVs because they live in Ashford Avenue in the downtown part of San Juan.
Yes.
So the insight would be that the storm, when it hit, and that, as Jose said, from that sort of midnight through to the 4 a.m. when it hit on that Tuesday, Wednesday, it was a very democratic storm. It impacted everybody. It became very economic the week, the month, and then the period after it. And what we see now is an economic impact. So those of you going to be here when we do the auction, please be generous. Those of you around tomorrow afternoon, please come with us so we can actually go and see some of these children, the incredible work being done by Olga and the team. Those of you who actually care about the future of the children, not just anywhere and any kids, but the kids on this island who need and deserve a future, please be generous, be helpful, and do everything you can to support. And I'd like to raise everybody and just say thank you so much to Olga, to Patricia, and to the rest of the team and everything they do here in the Boys and Girls Club.